audio. All right. We're good to go. So, streamers, welcome to the show, guys. And you know the drill. We're no longer live out of the Boss Hawk Radio Network, which means fewer commercials for you guys. I'll do the formal intros in about 6.5 minutes when we start the satellite portion of the show. But as you can see, we've got Sheriff Mark Kreider from Walla Walla County in Washington State, and also Dr. Travis Yates, retired major from the Tulsa Police Department. So thanks for being on the show, guys. And I'll be watching the stream for commentary. I see that we've got Sergeant George from Hayward, California, where it's 48 degrees. So, and he looks like he's on YouTube. And over here in Rumble, we've got people on Rumble and LinkedIn and the full gamut as well. So thanks for watching the show, guys. So yeah, I've got that bill. I'll just save it, and I've got a website with the information on it. But I'll let you guys, since I'm not that familiar with it, I'll let you guys talk about it when we get there.
You can read the article I just sent you and Chip. So it's a pretty quick read. Get you up to speed.
I can send you my response to it as well. They also introduced legislation that if you are a former ICE officer, you are ineligible to be a law enforcement officer in the state of Washington.
Yeah, that shows you where their head's at.
Yeah, so that's not illegal at all.
Yeah, so we'll cover that in the update section. So, but I don't want to sit here and read while we're live on the stream. So we'll just keep the show going here for the next 5 minutes and 15 seconds. But everybody having a good, it's hump day. Everybody having a good week so far?
Thus far.
So I haven't seen anything being promoted yet about the glove challenge from the Wounded Blue. So I'm going to probably end up getting producer Will to come up with some marketing stuff to get it out there on social media so people can take part in the contest, because we've only got a little over a month left.
I wish I could give you, well, I won't say it on the stream.
All right. But anyhow, so we just want to get, we need to fix the landing page at the Wounded Blue, because they say the contest was January 20th through 23rd. So it makes it look like it's already expired. So why donate money when in essence, it's still going till the end of February. So we missed you at SHOT Show, Sheriff.
I was a little busy fighting legislation, and you have to get on. I don't know if I can send you the link. You'll have to get on for the testimony of 5974. It was entertaining. Let's just put it that way.
And you gave testimony?
I gave testimony. Another sheriff gave testimony, and he got a little riled up. And
talking about Keith Swank.
I'm trying not to mention him by name, but thanks, Travis.
Well, no, man. I don't listen. I need more people to speak their mind like that. I mean, it's so ridiculous what's going on.
You know what? I agreed with everything that he said right up until the point where he kind of threw the gauntlet and challenged their authority. And I'm a little bit more diplomatic in my approach, but he didn't say anything that wasn't factual. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I appreciate the diplomatic approach. God just didn't bless me with that. I wish he would have. I would have had a much easier career for sure.
And the unfortunate part of it is the legislature is going to cram it down our throat, regardless of what the people say, which I think is the most important part of this. Almost a 90% against. When you go through and look at the people that registered, whether they were for or against the bill, almost 90% were against this bill, and over 14,000 people registered their position, which is unusual. So obviously there's a big groundswell of citizens that don't think this is, number one, constitutional, and it's not right.
And you could attribute it, Chip. It's similar to the Illinois, Illinois' bill that just cut the knees off of law enforcement. They call, because these politicians will call it these cool names. It's the Safety Act, right? And so the citizens think, oh, this means safety. And Washington did the same thing. Oh, this is about trust building and community and more training. And then they put all the bad stuff in the back of the bill that nobody wants to read. So it's crazy. It's crazy when you read it. It's crazy when you read it.
Any bill that's 27 pages long is junk.
Oh, it's crazy, man.
Let's
I mean,
just
there's all these cool nuggets in there. Like, we will decertify you if you are unethical. Well, what's the definition of that? It's like crazy.
Well, and they could decertify you on an anonymous complaint from somebody not even in your county.
Here's the best part, Chip. They did this to the officers a few years ago, and they said they could decertify you if you violate use of force policy. Well, do you think that could be wrong? Do you think an administration could get that one wrong? A violation of use of force policy.
Yes,
there's a lot of violations in use of force policy, right? I mean, Washington and Minneapolis, the legislations are making sure no one will want to work in those states, which is why they're doing it.
This bill, if passed, will make a current sitting sheriff ineligible to run for re-election.
Yeah. You must have some sheriffs they don't like up there, Sheriff, because that's why they're doing it.
They don't like any sheriffs.
Yeah, because y'all believe in that whole thing called the Constitution. That's going to get in their way. It's really going to get in their way. In fact, I think they even mentioned, because one of the reasons they mention the groups is the constitutional sheriff movement. They don't like that either. Anyway, it's a Chip show. I'll let him talk about it.
I'm very hesitant to, I don't call myself a constitutional sheriff, but I do tell people, that every elected official in the state of Washington swears an oath when they sign into their office. They swear an oath to the Constitution.
We got to go, guys. All right, here we go. To radio. All right, guys, and welcome to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host, and we're a group of law enforcement professionals that talk about today's news and issues, but we do it from a law enforcement perspective. And I'm going to introduce the crew, guys, if you don't mind waiting for the video portion of our show. He's back, Sheriff Mark Kreider, all the way from Walla Walla County in Washington State. So thanks for being on the show, Sheriff. And also Dr. Travis Yates, retired police major from the Tulsa Police Department. And he also has, he also wrote a book, The Courageous Police Leader, and he tours the country giving talks about just that. So thanks, gentlemen, for being on the show. A shout out to our sponsors. We have our title sponsor, Gulls at Gulls.com, also CompliantTechnologies.com, our satellite sponsor, AeroPrecisionUSA.com, Gunlearn.com, Medicare.live, SafeguardRecruiting.com, our streaming sponsor, and we're streaming to over 1 million people right now during the live show. We have TwoBellas.com that built our new online store, and FishOrlandoBass.com. Zach has got a bass fishing charter, and if you are interested in doing the bass fishing charter out of Orlando or hunting alligators, and that's catching and relocating the Florida alligator, hook up with Zach at FishOrlandoBass.com. Also, TampaFP.com with Brian Burns. Thanks for carrying our content, Brian. And also Ray Dietrich, former lawman.com, and Travis Yates with lawofficer.com. Thanks for making all these things in this show happen. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to whet the appetite for the story. We're bringing everything up to speed with Minneapolis. I got a bunch of news sources here, but we're basically going to fill in the blanks on what's going on, and it's such major movement every day. It's really hard to keep up. So we're going to be covering maybe about 6 articles that are just on that. And then as far as other stuff that we've got a jury reaches a verdict in the trial of ex-Uvalde school police officer that was killed in failing to confront the gunman, and suspect killed in Albuquerque. Officer, the guy fires through his clothes, and he fires the bad guy. The bullet hits his phone first, then it hits the police officer's radio, and the cop's not even injured. I can't say the same for the bad guy, though. We got a video showing a Miami-Dade officer or deputy fatally shooting an armed shoplifting suspect, of all things, outside a Walmart. And a sheriff's deputy pulled over by the Novi police officer. He returns the favor about 15 minutes later, and now he's in the grease. And then we've got, it looks like San Diego Police Department. They have a body-worn camera video of a guy shot by San Diego police officers. And then lastly, a woman armed with a knife fatally shot by Grand Forks County Sheriff's deputy in North Dakota. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to do it a little bit different this time, because we've got a bunch of information about Minneapolis, but the category, it's such a big deal. There's like different categories of stuff. So we'll take breaks. I'll group these together, but we'll have to take breaks when we're talking about it. The sources are NY Post, New York Post, Fox News, the Liberty Daily, the Post Millennial, the Wall Street Journal, lawofficer.com, and RVM News, which is Red Voice Media. It starts off talking about Alex Pretty was actually known to the feds, and he had a broken rib in an anti-ICE protest a week before he was killed by Border Patrol. If you can believe that. Now remember, he was shot and killed by Border Patrol agent, but ICE is what really started things off with the female named Good, in Minneapolis weeks ago. So it goes on to say that Alex Preddy was known to the feds and suffered a broken rib in a violent confrontation with agents a week before the Border Patrol officers killed him in Minneapolis. And Preddy, of course, they say he was an ICU nurse. He told a friend of his that he saw ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot. This is the incident that happened before he was killed. And he stopped his car, and he gets involved in the incident, and he ended up, of course, being shot this past Saturday, but he confronted ICE. He said that when he pulled his car over, began shouting, he was blowing a whistle, and then he was tackled by 5 agents. So, yeah, this guy is anything but innocent. And then we've got the far left network. They're talking about helping put Alex Preddy in harm's way, and then they made him a martyr. So it talks about there being a coordinated effort. They call them ICE abductors, and that's what he's part of. And there's a database, and Fox News Digital actually got a hold of it. They've actually got screenshots of it, and we'll have the articles available under the video that comes out tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning at Rumble. But Preddy was 37 years old. It talks about Border Patrol and ICE agents were there to arrest illegal immigrants, criminals, and it talks about these rapid responders. They had made 26 entries in this database that is available to every one of them. It's called MN for Minnesota ICE plates. So MN ICE plates, and they're documenting license plate numbers of suspected ICE and Border Patrol agents and the description of vehicles and all this stuff. And that's how they're rolling. So on those 2 articles, let's go ahead and start the talk. I got some other stuff coming up about a podcaster that got into it with Scott Jennings. But Travis, you want to start us off?
I think the one thing that bothers me about this, and it always bothers me, is the propaganda, right? I mean, this guy's the new Breonna Taylor, right? Oh, he's just a nurse. I mean, there's reports coming out now that he was fired from his job a few months ago. His parents were warning him about these groups he was involved in. He was warned not to go out and do it. He was there a week ago getting in altercations. And so I think through all that, it really bothers me that we call these protesters. This is not what protests are. I mean, protesters don't obstruct law enforcement. They don't get in altercations with law enforcement. I think the idea of a protest is they're on a sidewalk with their signs looking kind of silly, and that's their American right. This has nothing to do with protesting. So I think most of Americans, if they don't look deep into this, Chip, they believe these are just protesters. This is not protesters, and it's so unique, and I think it's unfortunate that this propaganda works. I mean, I'm not going to get into whether the shooting was right or wrong or whatever. I don't have enough information. There's not enough information. So anyone saying that doesn't know anything about use of force. You've got to have all the information. Unlike crazy people, I don't look at a viral video and immediately make a judgment, right? I got more responsibility than that. But it's hard to not argue that he did not put himself in harm's way. Several years ago, the talking point that was really crazy was we'd always hear this, and everybody listening to this heard this. Usually it came from an African-American parent that said, it's unfortunate to have the talk with my kid. And they were making this big deal how these blacks are shot unarmed, this and that, which of course that is all a farce. It's all nonsense. All the research shows that, which is why they don't really talk about it anymore. But the truth is, every parent should discuss this with their kids. You should follow authority. You should follow orders of police officers. You should follow orders of the crossing guards through school. Every parent should be an adult and have discussions with their children about authority. It looks like we need to have discussions with adults now about authority, because this is not just children doing this. And so I think it's really, everyone's missing the big picture here. Why are adults acting in this manner? It's really insane.
Good point. Really excellent points. The rest of this, and we haven't even gotten halfway through this. Scott Jennings, a New York Times podcaster, come to blows over Border Patrol investigation. So listen to the slant. Now, CNN senior political commentator Scott Jennings, he sparred with a podcaster with the New York Times. So both relatively liberal, publications, but this happened on Tuesday. But they're talking about the investigation surrounding ICE and Alex Preddy's death. And but again, Preddy was killed by Border Patrol. So I don't know if the article just got it wrong or what, but the Times podcaster, which is Lulu Garcia Navarro, was arguing on The Arena with Katie Hunt that the investigation that this blows my mind. that they, meaning the general public, cannot trust the investigation if state and local authorities are not involved in investigating the death of Preddy. And of course, right now it's a federal investigation. And the state, of course, of Minnesota and local Minneapolis, they've been begging to get involved in this. Now, Jennings argued that the public cannot trust an investigation overseen by Democratic Minnesota Governor Tim Walz or the mayor, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who immediately concluded that Preddy and Renee Good's death, that they were both unjustified, that they were murders. And this is before an investigation was even started. Commentary? If there's none, let's hop on to the next one then. We'll go to the 48 hours that convinced Trump. I'm sorry, did somebody weigh in?
I was trying to, but I'll kind of weigh in on this from a different angle. From a law enforcement entity, I live in a state that we are prohibited by law from assisting ICE. All of this nonsense and protesting on the streets and interference on the streets could be avoided if these sanctuary cities would get rid of their policies and we did the safe and secure transfer of illegal aliens inside the jails. Number one, it targets the illegal aliens that we're looking for because they've already committed. Local law enforcement does not arrest on immigration. We arrest on state criminal statutes. So those people that are incarcerated in our jail are there because they violated a state statute. ICE could come in safely and securely, transfer them into ICE custody and take them to an ICE facility. All this stuff would go away in 24 hours because there's nowhere to protest inside the jail. It's safer for the illegal aliens. It's safer for the local police officers. It's safer for the federal police officers, and it's safer for the public.
I don't argue with you. I agree. The next point, we're talking about the big switch now with Trump, and they're trying to explain that because we did pull some people out of Minneapolis. So it says the 48 hours that convinced Trump to change course of Minnesota. And it's talking about this pivot with Trump. It comes after Republican lawmakers now on Trump's own side and other allies. They apparently raised concerns that he was squandering public support for a signature campaign issue and senior administration officials. Now, I see my clock going off, which means we have a commercial break coming up. So, guys, it is time for first commercial break. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. And we were talking about galls at galls.com. And, you know, when we go to buy gear, and that's one of the main things that cops do well, when you throw the online mix, it's almost limitless the choices that you have. So that's why I want to remind everybody here about what's really important is supporting the companies that actually support law enforcement. And I don't know of a company that does that better than galls at galls.com. Even their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which of course they do in spectacular fashion. And not only that, they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focused organizations like this radio show. So when you're looking for gear, please support our title sponsor by going to galls at galls.com. And they're going to do you one better. For the loyal listeners of the show, they've got a radio code that'll get you 15% off most purchases. It is radio 15. So type in radio 15 in order to get 15% off your next order at galls.com. They pretty much have everything but guns and ammunition. If you haven't been there lately, I suggest you go there and check it out. Now it's time to talk about Compliant Technologies at complianttechnologies.com. And, they've got some great products, but my favorite product they have is called the glove. And I would say that Travis and I are now new believers on that. And with galls.com, with Compliant Technologies, you've got MyTech as well. Now, let me go ahead and talk about the glove. The glove has actually helped officers not only tens of thousands of times, but I think they've had over 250,000 deployments with no injuries. And you heard that correctly. I said no injuries. They've actually achieved what we call non-lethal status, when normally you can only achieve less lethal because people have had, injuries or deaths. That's not the case with the glove. And Compliant Technologies, they virtually eliminate weapons confusion. So stay ahead of the game with Compliant Technologies and the revolutionary CD3 by going to complianttechnologies.com and tell them that Chip sent you. Again, that is complianttechnologies.com. Make sure you watch the cool videos and learn about this amazing product, the glove. All right, we got 2 minutes, guys, before we come back to the radio portion of the show. Everybody doing good so far?
Yeah, Chip, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, making sure. My microphone, maybe time to upgrade this Amazon $10 mic.
All right, so let me just, since we're on a commercial break, let me just remind everybody here that's watching the show on stream, or there may be some radio stations that are still carrying the signal, but there is a glove challenge, and it incorporates Leo Roundtable, our show, and it incorporates Compliant Technologies, which are the owners and the vendors of the glove, and also the Wounded Blue at thewoundedblue.org, which is Lieutenant Randy Sutton's 501c3 charity. So the two people that had the glove applied at SHOT Show were myself and Dr. Travis Yates. And I think that we basically took one for the team. And we already believe in the product, but there's really nothing like having a hands-on application of the product. And it was filmed. So here's the competition that we've come up with. And I don't know how familiar you are with it, Sheriff. That's why we were hoping to get you at SHOT Show and the glove thing. So anyhow,
I have a weak heart. Remember that?
yeah, but it won't affect. It doesn't affect the heart. It's
That
localized.
excuse didn't help me.
Yeah. So here it goes. Whoever, we're asking you guys to go to the Wounded Blue, and I only got 30 seconds. Go to the woundedblue.org, and they've got a landing page under the event section, and go there and make a donation, and put either my name or Travis Yates' name, on the donation. And whoever lasts the longest without complying will win a pair of gloves that can go to an agency of their choice. And whoever donates the most money and that person's name will also get a pair of gloves to go to an agency. It's a win-win, and it gets this glove in the front door of the agency. So, guys, we're going back to radio. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by Sheriff Mark Kreider from Walla Walla County in Washington State, and also Dr. Travis Yates, retired police major from the Tulsa Police Department. And we're talking about Minneapolis, and that's where we were at before we went to commercial break. I know that I was talking about at the article titled "The 48 Hours That Convinced Trump to Change Course in Minnesota." And it says this pivot came after lawmakers, but these were Republican lawmakers, surprisingly. They were worried about public support because of all the issues going on and the chaotic stuff that's going on in Minneapolis right now. And they saw it as a liability. And even gun rights advocates normally behind Trump, the article says they publicly were criticizing the administration, saying that the administration said Preddy shouldn't have been, carrying a gun during the protest activity. But of course, they also learned that he legally had access, to carry, that gun. So that's going out. Guys, well, let me just continue on with the next two. That said, it talks about Trump changing course. Then we got breaking Frey, the mayor, saying that Minneapolis will not comply with federal immigration law after Holman meeting. So he says that I made it clear that Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal investigation laws, and that we will remain focused on keeping our neighbors and streets safe. And the mayor, Jacob Frey, said that on Tuesday, his city, quote, will not enforce federal immigration laws, unquote, in the wake of a meeting with border czar Tom Homan. So, yeah, Trump had decided to send Tom Homan in, who had not been there, under this current working conditions. And Frey also said that, hey, today Chief O'Hara and I met with border czar Tom Homan. So the Chief O'Hara and both the mayor did, says they had a productive conversation. However, he reiterated that his main task for Operation Metro Surge is to end it as quickly as possible. Public safety works best when it's built on community trust, not tactics that create fear or division. Never mind that the fear and division is among the bad elements, the bad actors, and then ICE agents regain authority after appeals court reverses Minnesota ruling. So after all that, the Trump won a major legal victory on Monday. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit overturned a lower court ruling. And I tell these judges ruling, jumping in here, it's unfortunate, but the U.S. Court of Appeal for the Eighth Circuit, they overturned a lower court ruling, which it restricted how federal immigration agents could respond to anti-ICE protests in Minnesota. This was reported on Fox News. And listen to this. In a decision by a 3-judge panel, the Eighth Circuit, they granted a full stay of prior injunction that limited the ability of ICE agents to arrest, detain, pepper spray, or otherwise respond to protesters in Minneapolis without probable cause. That's gone. The ruling allows ICE agents to continue enforcement operations without the protest-specific constraints imposed earlier this month by a activist judge, Sheriff Kreider.
I'll go back to, once again, the safe, secure transfer of illegal aliens that are arrested for violation of state law that are currently incarcerated in jails throughout the country, mainly in sanctuary cities. You know, in the state of Washington, we don't honor ICE detainers because they're not signed by a judge. They are still legal process, and they have the full value of any legal process, and they should be honored. And if we were transferring these individuals in jails, we wouldn't have all this nonsense that's going on across the country. This is not about public safety. It is a political statement by sanctuary cities that want to snub their nose because they don't like the federal government. And it is not making our communities safer.
Well, first off, and now listen, we have some middle-aged white females with purple hair in the chat, so I just want them to just step back and take a breath when I say this. Mayor Fry is lying. They're not asking Mayor Fry to enforce federal law. Only federal agents can do that. Okay. What they're asking him to do is to if you have people that are criminals inside your jails, to hold those for ICE. So that's completely different. So he's playing word games. But I actually disagree with the sheriff, probably for the first time ever. So I'm not disappointed in that, where he said that it's a message that they don't like the federal government. Oh no, these sanctuary cities love the federal government. They love the money that comes from the federal government. They love the money that they filter into the fraud and the daycares and everything else. They love all of it. Their police departments love the justice assistance grants, giving in millions and millions of dollars to the Minneapolis Police Department. I think that that we should take a different approach here. Let's let Minnesota be Minnesota, but they should not get another dime from the federal government. And let's see how that state does on their own. Now, I know there's some court battles on that, but if you're not following federal protocols and federal procedures and federal laws, I don't know how you're eligible for federal money. It says it all the time when you apply for the justice assistance grants, and the sheriff knows this. There's certain rules that police departments have to follow to get the money. So I don't know how these states can just thumb their nose at federal law and expect to keep getting millions and millions of dollars. And I can tell you, coming from a city about the size of Minneapolis and a department about the size of Minneapolis, they would not function without the federal government money coming into that police department.
Wow. You know,
so good point for Dr. Yates. He's exactly right. And I can tell you, as a current sheriff, we are suffering from this because we have 142 miles of Snake and Columbia River that we patrol during the boating months. And that money comes from a grant, which is trickled down through a grant from Homeland Security. And this year, Washington is not going to receive that money because of their non-compliance with federal jurisdiction. And now we are going to have Washington citizens that are going to suffer because we're not going to have our boat out on the water because we don't have the money to operate it.
Wow.
Real world consequences for your decisions.
Yeah, and there should be. There should be. Well, guys, remember this when we go to the polls, because that's ultimately where things really should be decided, who our elected leaders are. But wow, that's interesting information. Hey, Sheriff, while we're at it, I know we got a minute, but that bill that we talked about off camera before the show started, Senate Bill 5974. Can you whet the appetite on that bill, and then we'll come back to it after this next commercial break?
Certainly. Senate Bill 5974 in the state of Washington is attempting to set up a star chamber to determine who can and cannot run for sheriff initially. And then they also have a commission that's run by the governor that can remove a duly elected sheriff from their office and appoint their own individual as sheriff in that county.
Wow. We'll talk about that in just a second, guys. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about Aero Precision at aeroprecisionusa.com, a beacon of durability, dependability, and all-American craftsmanship in the realm of duty rifles and, yes, We're talking about long guns. They're born from an aerospace engineering company, so these guys know what they're doing. And Aero Defense by Aero Precision, they demand perfection because settling for anything less is not an option when your life is on the line. Visit aeroprecisionusa.com for a lineup that matches every discipline because they basically have something for everybody. And way back since 1994, they've been quietly leading the AR builder parts domain, but now they're making waves in the complete rifle arena with Solus bolt actions. And that's not all. Their M4 E1 Pro and the Mod 4 handguards, they already hit the market at aeroprecisionusa.com. The embodiments of duty rifle excellence that's now being tailored for the civilian customer. That means that now you guys can start getting hold of the primo stuff and their M5 AR 308 platform, nothing short of spectacular. So don't settle for less. When you can have the best, head over to aeroprecisionusa.com. Again, aeroprecisionusa.com. All right, we got 4 minutes, gentlemen, before we come back to radio.
I was chuckling when you said that. I got a post yesterday of a guy that was a heavy infantry Coast Guard veteran, which I'm not sure what that is, but the forward assist on the AR platform, he outlined that's not a forward assist, that it was it's a switch to change it from semi-auto to like ammo follow or automatic firing. He was trying to say full auto, but he had a weird word for it. So I was like, damn, I've been shooting these things for decades and I never knew that the forward assist changed my rifle from semi-auto to full auto. I chuckle with these experts on Facebook and TikTok, and
it is unique. I mean, there's very few professions that have to deal with that, right? I mean, I don't see a lot of people arguing about accountants and lawyers and doctors, and people just assume that they don't know that much about that information. But when it comes to referees and police officers, everybody knows more. It's pretty wild.
Absolutely. And that's what's funny about this commission. It's made up of mostly civilians to review you to find out whether or not you lose your peace officer certification. It's not made up by peace officers.
And the wild thing about the sheriff thing is you have to be like, you have to have like what, 3 or 5 years of continuous law enforcement service before you can even run for sheriff.
Last year, when they introduced this bill, it would have made me ineligible to run for sheriff because they didn't recognize the FBI Academy as a law enforcement academy, which we can argue that all day long. But
wow,
it is an Alcoholics Anonymous group. I will tell you that.
And when I was elected sheriff, they tried very hard to make me go through the police academy because I didn't have law enforcement experience.
Wow,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty unique. So. Hey, well, when we come back in about a minute 45, we'll talk some more about that Senate bill, and then we'll go on to an update. And I definitely want to cover at least that first video. We got some good stuff that we're holding on to. So anybody got big plans for this weekend? I was telling before the show started, it's actually in Tampa. I mean, it was colder here than in Las Vegas when I was there last week. But it's going down to like about 25 degrees this weekend, and there's going to be rain on Saturday.
I don't care. It's colder here than Alaska, so I don't want to hear it.
Oh, dude, we're gonna have it rough this weekend.
Where are you, Travis?
I'm in Oklahoma. We got hit with that big storm.
You guys are you're weak.
I know. No, I'm not weak, but yes, as a whole, the state is weak. I mean, schools are still shut down, and I'm like, what's going on, man? It's fine,
It snows every year. Get over it.
I'm glad you made it out of Vegas in time, because you may still be in Vegas if you wouldn't have made that last plane.
They offered $5,000 to get off the plane, but they said you wouldn't get out till Monday or Tuesday. And frankly, I kind of wanted to take the travel money, but I wanted to be home too. I don't like being in Vegas because I would have lost $2 or $3 grand staying in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but they gave you five grand to play with. Come on.
No, it was travel funds. So yeah, it would have helped me out on travel, but no, it wasn't actual money.
I got you.
You got to negotiate cash.
They started at $1,250 and they worked their way up. There must have been a pilot they were trying to move somewhere.
All right, guys, back to radio. I'm going to start the music. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. And we are joined by Sheriff Mark Kreider from Walla Walla County in Washington State. And we've also got Dr. Travis Yates, who's retired police major from the Tulsa Police Department. And we left off talking about Senate Bill 5974 from Washington State. And our favorite sheriff is telling us and explaining that to us right now. So, Sheriff Kreider, you're back on.
I don't know. I would encourage all your guests to get on. I think this is a trend that may happen across the nation, trying to take the power away from county sheriffs and out of the hands of the voters. There's a quantified constitutional process for removing a sheriff that you're not happy with or that you think has committed malfeasance or misfeasance. And that's called the recall process. And that was demonstrated in an adjacent county to me 2 years ago. The sheriff was doing some things that they didn't approve of, and the voters recalled him and voted him out of office. And every 4 years, if you don't like the job that I'm doing, as a voter, you have the right to run somebody against me and vote me out of office and get somebody new in to do what you think is best. It is not in the voters' best interest, whether you're Democrat or Republican, to put the selection of your elected officials in the hands of an unelected commission run by the governor.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if that did catch on, what's the likelihood of this thing passing in Washington State? Do you any predictions?
100%.
Oh, seriously?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
They don't need one Republican vote in order to pass this in the state of Washington.
All right, that is scary then. Well, I hope it stays isolated to Washington, but I'm with you. I'm not likely thinking that it will.
And what we've seen in Washington is that the voters did a referendum. They kept upping car registration. And so the voters voted to bring it back down to $30 to register your car. The legislature overturned the will of the voters and redid it. We had a referendum on, it's in the Constitution that there's no state income tax. And the voters reaffirmed that with a referendum. And the governor just instituted a tax on the millionaires. So the voters are very tired of what they put forward being overturned by the legislature. So they're going against the will of the voters. And I think, Section 1, Article 1 of the Washington Constitution says that elected officials derive their power from the people. The government doesn't give people power. The government is only in place at the behest of the governed. So I think that's very important.
Well, Chip,
Agreed.
Those people outside the state of Washington, if they want to sort of be on the lookout for this in their state, because I agree with the sheriff, I think this is something that will transition to the rest of the part of the country. If a politician looks you in the eye and tells you, we're trying to build more trust with law enforcement in their community, your spidey sense should go up, because it just should. That's what they used in Washington to sort of get this going. And just the bill is crazy, but I'll just mention a couple things in the bill. By the way, much of this applies to police officers right now. That passed in 2021. Now they're coming after sheriffs, like the sheriff said. But here's what it says: officers have to not only abide by the United States Constitution, but also the Constitution of the state of Washington and the opinions of judges and legislative laws. Now, can we think of any major opinions, I don't know, around 2020, 2021 that was all found unconstitutional years later, that if police officers would have refused to enforce? According to this law, they would have been decertified. Of course, it was all of the COVID stuff, right? That was eventually found out to be unconstitutional. So that's just one thing. But the catch-all of this is, and I'll read straight from the bill: if you're engaged in any conduct or pattern of conduct that fails to meet the ethical and professional standards required of a peace officer or corrections officer, disrupts, diminishes, listen to this, disrupts, diminishes, or otherwise jeopardizes public trust or confidence, you will be decertified. Well, that can literally be anything. some local media runs a hit piece on you full of lies. Well, oh, that violates the trust of. I mean, it could be anything. And so this is all about gutting law and order. It's very difficult for me to understand how anyone could be in law enforcement in the state of Washington if this passes, because we're literally taking your career and even your freedom at jeopardy, so to speak. So listen, we need large organizations to speak about this. It's not just the state of Washington. This is going to transition across the United States. We've seen this with body camera legislation. You know, that was an accountability tool for law enforcement. I think it's a great tool. Now we're seeing states that are now, well, if you violate a policy of your body camera, then it's actually a violation of law. We saw that try to get passed in Tennessee just a few years ago, and it's going in other states. So it's not about accountability. It's about cutting law and order and ensuring that criminals reign in these states.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Excellent commentary. Wow. I just can't believe that's happening. We're going to move over to foxnews.com, where we have a jury reaching a verdict in the trial of the ex-Uvalde school police officer that was accused of failing to confront the gunman. So I take it as basically as an act of cowardice. A jury returned a not guilty verdict on Wednesday in the trial of former Uvalde school police officer Adrian Gonzalez. He was charged with 29 counts of child abandonment or endangerment tied to this incident that happened on May 24th back in 2022 at the Robb Elementary School. The jury deliberated for only 7 hours before they returned the verdict. Now, the officer, Gonzalez, he faced charges tied to the attack at Robb Elementary, but in the early stages of it, 19 children, 2 adults ended up dying in the shooting. It's the deadliest shooting in Texas history, according to the Texas Tribune. And his counsel brought up 2 witnesses to the stand in his defense, but Gonzalez did not take the stand. It goes on to say that former Uvalde Schools police chief, Pete Arendano, he was also charged criminally in relation to this incident. And he actually got with endangerment or abandonment of a child. He's pled not guilty, and he's going to go to the trial in the future, but they haven't even set a date for that trial yet. Any commentary on this one, guys?
Well, I think this is a leadership issue, you know, and probably a training issue. The question is, does that rise to criminal wrongdoing, right? It's obviously clearly a failure on many levels within our profession. But I think, you know, the question is, can you hold an officer criminally liable if their leader tells them something and they follow those orders? And I don't know the intricate details. From what I understand is the decisions were being sort of dictated by the leaders there. And so it's awful easy for people to sit back and go, well, if I would have been there, I would have done this or that. And so what people have to understand is we all know all the information now of what many of them didn't know, right? Sometimes, I mean, I'm just making an assumption here. If you're the 7th or 8th officer back in a line at a school, you almost assume that the people in front of the line are making decisions that you have to follow because you don't know what all they know. And so, man, this goes either way. I could probably make an argument either way on this one, but I think the ultimate issue is our leaders need to be prepared. We need to train our officers at a high level, and we have to do better than what was happening here because it's very tragic. Agreed.
Well, if you guys are ready to hit the first story with the video component, let's go ahead and jump on that. And it's a doozy. We're going to take this from Rumble.com, our favorite law enforcement video channel called This Is Butter. We have a suspect killed. An Albuquerque police officer ends up being safe after the suspect fires his gun, which hit the police officer's radio. So like I said, Albuquerque, New Mexico. The department, it involves the roadway inn, and the cops were looking to apprehend one of their most wanted suspects who ended up being at the inn. It's 3:00 in the afternoon, December the 21st. And so Albuquerque police officers, they find this guy. He's wanted for auto theft and aggravated assault. He's 32 years old, Luis Areola Palma, and he takes off on foot. So now he's running. So we have a police video showing this. So Palma ends up running through hotel property before, you know, it's pretty much like one of these, they say hotel. It looks more like one of those motels, right? And the guy is ahead of the officer. The officer's chasing him, threatening to tase him. The guy turns a corner, and apparently he pretty much runs into 1 or 2 cops, you know, in that corner. So now the officer chases him, turns, and this guy's, you know, already into it with at least 1 officer. And so the chasing officer now gets involved. So they said that our bad guy, it's not clear in the video. You hear a gunshot, but while they're fighting with him, apparently he has his hand in his pocket of his jacket, and he discharges a gun, and it strikes his cell phone, and then it hits a police radio that was on Officer Michael Golden's vest. And that's when the other officer, Christopher Cook, fired 5 shots. It took a while for him to get his gun in holster, but he fired 5 shots and killed the bad guy. And so the bullet actually hit 2 things: the bad guy's cell phone and Officer Golden's police radio. The officer was absolutely not injured, which is an amazing thing. Commentary on this, guys, it's pretty well video to watch. Travis, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, Chip, as you know, I've studied these encounters at a pretty high level, and I'll just whet the appetite after the break. If you're in a foot pursuit and subjects are doing one or 2 things, they're either running with one arm swinging and one arm tight, or they're running with their hands concealed in the front, stop getting your taser out. There's something more sinister going on, and so I'll fill that in after the break.
All right, thanks, Travis. Commercial break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about GunLearn at gunlearn.com. And as law enforcement officers, we deal with guns every day, but it's what we don't know about them that gets us in the trouble. There's injuries, civil lawsuits, accidental discharges, misidentifications, lost prosecutions, and also disciplinary issues. But gunlearn.com, they have your back. You can quickly become extremely firearm knowledgeable by simply learning 14 training modules from the convenience of your home or your office, or by attending a live seminar at gunlearn.com. You can also become a safe, accurate, and competent certified firearm specialist like our very own Captain Brett Bartlett and also attorney Ken Affianco. Now, the course has had huge success in raising the bar of firearm knowledge, and GunLearn has been a trusted source since way back in 2011 by gun manufacturers, federal agencies, forensic organizations, and police departments nationwide. Now, the founder, Dan O'Kelly's got a deal for you if you have your own agency. If you're a police chief or a sheriff, you can actually host a seminar for absolutely no cost. It's an amazing opportunity. You can go to gunlearn.com to get more information. All right, guys, we have 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. All right, I love it. Moving right along. All right, guys. We're 3/4 of the way through the show. I know. Who would have thunk? So, well, Travis, it was good meeting you in person.
Was it everything you thought?
You know, you're a big guy. I'd hate, if I had the tango with you, dude, I'd have to shoot you. I'm not chasing you down, dude. I'm not going to get in a one-on-one with you, dude. That ain't going to happen.
I'm a very calm presence.
Oh, and what is this without you? You don't like to hug? You don't like to be hugged? What's up with that?
I guess I wasn't hugged much as a child or something.
Is that what it is?
My wife is a hugger, so she doesn't like that. But I said I can do other things but hug. I'm pretty good at other things, but I'm not good at hugging.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And by the way, since the glove happened, I'm much better at those other things. So maybe that's a marketing pitch they could start pitching out there.
Maybe
I'm taking a lot less prescriptions now, and than I was.
Yeah, I think the glove actually improves blood flow, is what I'm thinking. So I'm just saying.
I think you both need to come out to the Western States Sheriff's Association conference.
Is that right? When is that?
March 28th or February 28th to March 5th.
We need to get the glove there. That would be awesome. I'll tell you, it is a game changer. Guys, we got about 10 seconds left. I'm going to start the music. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by Sheriff Mark Kreider from Walla Walla County in Washington State, and also Dr. Travis Yates, retired police major from the Tulsa Police Department. We love talking about a use of force. There was a video component to it. A bad guy running from the police. He's wanted for grand theft auto, among other things. And the cop is chasing him through it looks like maybe a motel, and the guy turns the corner ahead of the cop. Unbeknownst to him, there was another cop in that little breezeway waiting for him. So the chasing cop gets there, and they're all fighting with this bad guy. Bad guy's got a gun in his jacket pocket. He fires it through the clothing. The bad guy hits his own cell phone. Then the bullet dislodges in the police radio. The cop, thank God, is not hurt, but one of the officers just it took maybe a few seconds, but ends up throwing 5 rounds into the bad guy. Well, I don't know if they all hit, but he shot 5 times. Bad guy died, so they had the desired result. Dr. Yates.
My team's done the most exhaustive research on officer-involved violence that's ever been done. If you want to know more about that, go to my website, travisyates.org, and go to training and go to focused. Go to the focused link there in that. And what we found in that research was in 91% of the violence against law enforcement, 91% of the time, an amplifier was present. What's an amplifier? It's information we know before the encounter. So what do we know here? Number one, he's a wanted felon. Number two, that felon is wanted for violence. And number three, you're at the roadway end. So that right there tells me there's a high likelihood of violence being predicated amongst you. So the last thing you want to do when you start chasing somebody is to get your taser out and listen to the words in the video. Let me see your hands. You're going to get tased. Well, the fact that he couldn't see his hands while running tells me put the taser up. The taser's not going to help you. And so it did not shock me when the guy ended up having a gun, because we saw that so much in the research when people are running with their hands concealed. So I just wonder if we're taking this serious. Like, do we take hands seriously? If you don't see hands, I have to think you're not taking it serious if you get a taser out. A taser is not an answer for somebody that's concealing hands.
Agree.
I'd add on that the kind of the two tactical things that kind of annoyed me is the way he was rounding corners. If that guy, he was far enough ahead, if he stopped, turned, he's going to kill that police officer when he rounds that corner. So you have to be aware when you're rounding corners, and especially, I don't think we're going to get Roadway Inn as a sponsor now that Dr. Yates threw that out. But those tight spaces limit your ability to tactically get around that corner safely. The second thing is when you're in a violent encounter, you have to stay in the fight until the fight is over. The guy that did get hit with a bullet, albeit in the radio, kind of lost sight of what was going on and was out of the fight. And the guy that had shot was the individual that had to go in, handcuff, and he just kind of walked away from the encounter, not getting a med kit, not really coherent with where he's been hit or if he's even been hit. So stay in the fight. We used to teach what is the first thing that's going to kill you if you're involved in a shooting. And it is not bleeding out. It's not loss of blood. It's not loss of consciousness. It's the guy that just shot you. So you've got to control that individual. And then you can assess your own personal well-being and take care of yourself. Self-aid, buddy aid.
That's great. Great words. Great advice. Guys, we've got just enough time to get one more in with the video component. So this next one, rumble.com. This is Butter, our favorite law enforcement video channel. We got a video showing a Miami-Dade deputy fatally shooting an armed shoplifting suspect outside of Walmart. So notice I said the suspect was armed. So we're down in Miami-Dade, Florida. Now the video was released by the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office on Thursday. This incident happened back on November the 6th. Our bad guy is a 36-year-old named Kennedy Graham. So the deputy responds to Walmart and to the supermarket. Loss prevention had caught this guy stealing from the store on security cameras. And so it looks like, most, at least where I live, the loss prevention specialists or security guys, they can detain, they have the legal right to hold people there, even by force until the cops get there. But they roll a little bit differently, here. And I don't know why, because I'm in the state of Florida too. But they call the cop, identify, point the guy out. The guy's leaving the store, and the deputy approaches him from outside the entrance. And then our bad guy starts to run. Deputy, they start scuffling. There's stuff that's flying out the deputy's, duty belt. His camera gets knocked off, but it kept filming. We also have, what's really saving the day, is a surveillance video of this thing. The deputy tries to detain our bad guy Graham, and they're wrestling on the ground now. And they fight for about a minute, and then all of a sudden, we got a beautiful freeze frame of a gun that suddenly appears. That the bad guy ends up, having in his hand. He breaks away from the deputy and he starts running, but he's running away from the deputy at this point. The video is pretty good because I'm always looking at the backdrop and I want to see, for justification purposes, what direction the deputy's running in, or the bad guy's running in, and what's there, right? And they circle a couple of, uninvolved civilians, and our bad guy with the gun is running right towards them. So our cop open fires. He shoots 3 times. Our bad guy keeps running, but he ends up collapsing and he ends up being pronounced dead. And it says that the deputy that did the shooting was 37 years old. He's been with the sheriff's office for 5 years, and that, he was not injured. So we got a little over 3 minutes, guys. Whoever wants to take this one first. So, Travis, you want to start us off?
Well, one of the things that people never mentioned, all the internet experts during the Renee Good shooting there in Minneapolis, was they made a big deal about, well, she may have hit him, but then she was just driving away, going to Starbucks or doing whatever else she was doing with her little dog. Well, people forget about this little Supreme Court case called Tennessee v. Garner, where if citizens as a whole are of imminent threat, you can shoot fleeing felons. And that's what we saw here, right? So he's running away. He didn't have to pick up his gun. He had dropped the gun in the scuffle, but then he picked up his gun to run away. If he hadn't picked up his gun, this probably wouldn't have happened. But he's running away with the gun, and you see civilians walking around in the parking lot. And so it was completely justified under the Constitution. Of course, as we all know, the Constitution doesn't mean a lot in some jurisdictions, you can see the lies that come out. Oh, he shot somebody in his back, or he shot somebody in the back of the head, like we saw in Chicago yesterday. Well, you're missing an entire component of justified legal force under the Constitution, which is Tennessee v. Garner, which has been around since the 80s.
Thank you, Doctor. Sheriff Kreider.
I think Dr. Yates makes a great point. The armchair quarterbacks and the Facebook warriors that are in their parents' basement, kind of like our mayor in Seattle. Sorry for the political comment, but you're trying to make an evaluation, and Dr. Yates is exactly right. We're going to have people yelling and screaming. They shot him in the back, but you have to understand case law and deadly force policy and how it is engaged in those particular situations. Albeit it may be distasteful, but he was well within legal authority to shoot that individual. So it's unfortunate, and I think people tend to forget, it's unfortunate that a man lost his life, but another individual has to live with the fact that he took another human life for the rest of his career.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, guys, we've only got about 56 seconds, so not enough time to get into another story, at least anyhow. And you know what? We did have one. Let me just we'll throw this in. Fox 2 Detroit. We have a sheriff's deputy pulled over by a Novi police officer, and then the deputy returns the favor 15 minutes later. Oakland County. So that's basically what happened. The deputy, Sahil Macy, 36 years old. He was convicted of misconduct in office for making a traffic stop for no legal basis. And he was, driving his unmarked take-home car. He's pulled over by a Novi police officer on February 24th. And he checked the deputy's identification and let him go. 15 minutes later, the deputy does a traffic stop on the cop that just pulled him over, and he was out of his jurisdiction, and the officer had not done anything illegal. We just have seconds, but any commentary on that, guys? No? All right. Well, we covered it. I know the sheriff has covered his eyes. So, the deputy didn't fare too well on that one. So, well, guys, another great show. Thank you so much for being on the show. Sheriff Mark Kreider from Walla Walla County in Washington State, and Dr. Travis Yates from Tulsa, former major there. Guys, I want to mention the Wounded Blue, thewoundedblue.org, Lieutenant Randy Sutton's 501c3 that's helping cops out in a world of hurt that are suffering from things like PTSD and other issues. If you're looking for an organization to support that is not going to embarrass you, look at the Wounded Blue at thewoundedblue.org. And I support this organization monthly. And Travis Yates is on the board of directors of that, if that means anything. So please consider that. Hey, guys, shout out to our sponsors, and thanks to our sponsors for making the show possible. We have Gauls.com, CompliantTechnologies.com, AirWarPrecisionUSA.com, Gunlearn.com, and Medicare.life, Safe for Recruiting, Two Bells and Fish, Orlando, Bass.com. Do the Bass Fishing Charter with Zach. We'll see you guys back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern. And we're going to keep going for about another minute and a half to keep the satellite guys happy. But I thought we lost your sheriff for a minute, but I'm glad you made it back.
We did. I was trying to, it didn't look like the comments were updating, so I clicked on something and it kicked me out. So maybe I made a bad comment.
hate it when that happens. So we got Brian Spencer, retired county sheriff. So thanks for being on the show again, Brian from Facebook, and David Banco. Thanks for the well wishes from Facebook as well. Linda Simpson doesn't look like Linda agrees with what we're saying. Hopefully, hopefully she's learning.
Well, she watched The View this morning, and so I'm sure she's upset.
That could be it. But Linda, I noticed that you said essentially BS for what we're saying, but you didn't say anything to counter what we're saying or to support your side of a different opinion. And you started off with profanity, so insulting us. So when people don't have anywhere to go to defend their position, they have an undefendable position, or they have an agenda, they're a false narrative that they're believing and stuff. That's what happens. They have no logical explanation or anything to back up what they're saying. So they start off with the insults like what Linda's doing. That's unfortunate because we're trying to provide a platform that educates people, because there's things that they don't know. And people like Linda, they don't know what they don't know. And yet, like Travis said, I can almost guarantee you that she's watching select media sources for news stories that are giving out bad information. She's fallen for it, not vetting the sources, because the people on this show, we've got a ton of experience. I mean, on average, probably over 30 years. And so anyhow, it's unfortunate, Linda. Hopefully, you'll read up on the information and start making some good decisions with it, guys. We're going to let the streamers go. So streamers, thanks for the support. We appreciate it. Everybody over on Rumble, MVS, and Bill BC, thanks, guys. I am working. I saw you guys typing saying that you're getting low on ammo. You want to get some more ammo. There is a guy that owns an ammo company, actually that's in Colorado, that I'm working on. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys posted. Thanks, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern.